Okay, welcome to Guest Talks. Today, my guest is Brittany Schmidt, my dear friend, a psychic medium, a spiritual coach, a mother, a businesswoman, a woman of many, many gifts, which I love because I am a multi-passionate human being as well. And today we will talk about various things, intuition, perhaps spirituality, and whatever else comes up. So, welcome to the Guest Talks, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time to talk with me.
Well, thank you, Maggie. I'm honored to be here. We managed to make it work despite being oodles of, I don't know, kilometers. I don't know what you use in Australia, but like I'm in Canada, so for us to make it work time-wise, this is nice. I'm glad
Yeah,
that we could make it work.
thank you so much. So before we start, before I ask you anything, can you introduce yourself in your own words? Tell us who you are, what you are about, what's like the most exciting thing in your life right now.
Oh, I love that one. Okay, so it's Brittany, bitch. I often introduce myself in that way because anybody in the 80s or 90s should know who Britney Spears is. My
Yes.
maiden name was Schmier. So when I'd get called to the office, Brittany Schmier, like guys would be lined up outside the office waiting for Britney Spears. And I'm like, dude, you need to listen carefully to the announcements. This is clearly not who you're looking for. I don't have a really cool snake wrapped around me in my underwear on the outside of my pants. I know how to wear them. So I am a psychic medium, as Maggie mentioned. I have been a real estate agent for many years. I was a people leader for a long time in corporate, left that to become an entrepreneur. I do all sorts of mini retreats. I am now the most exciting thing that's happening currently is I just launched my course. It's called Lean In, Spark Your Senses. So this is a course to help people with their intuition to lean into themselves rather than anything external. Although with psychic mediumship, of
Mm,
course, I get messages from spirit, but this course is to focus on people to lean into their own gifts because we've been conditioned to put them away. And that was my story for a long time, is to just not tune into my own intuition and let the world run me
mm,
through people pleasing, being manipulated, all these things. So my purpose on this earth is to empower others to see their gifts and to charge appropriately for them, because what I notice in the spiritual community is that there's a lot of wounding around charging your worth. And as
yes.
as an entrepreneur, it is important for you to be charging your worth, because if you don't, in my case, my family doesn't eat. So I love them a
Mm,
lot and I'd love for them to be able to eat. So this is part of my mission, is
yes.
to help other people see their worth and to, lean into that and lean into their intuition and experience all the goodness of the gifts. I also am very much in love with manifestation. So I will be releasing a manifestation course at some point. Just haven't gotten there yet. And then eventually the course that I've just launched will be a prerequisite to a mediumship course in the future. What else do I do? I have two decks. One is called Sprinkle and the other one is called Sparkle. The name of my business is Sprinkle That Sparkle, so it seemed appropriate. They came as a channel
Mm-hmm.
download during one of the Lionsgate moons. So it was affirmations on the front and journal prompts on the back, because when I started my spiritual journey, I had no fucking clue how to journal. So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, I can help with that. And so I came up with these affirmations, and then I channeled the journal prompts on the back. And again, those are for empowerment and for teaching people how to regain their confidence and to manifest and really like lean back into yourself again. So asking questions that you wouldn't normally ask yourself. So when I saw your journal, was it a 21-day
Mm,
challenge? I was like,
yes.
yes. And you included something that I had never considered, and that was forgiveness. And that was a really eye-opening experience to kind of work through
Mm,
the prompts that you put in there, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I just therapized myself. Is that a word?
yeah, well, yeah, I say self-coaching because
Yeah.
it's like it's easy to say as well, but yes.
Yes. I like that. Self-coaching. And to work through your workbook, I actually kept it and it's on my shelf, because I'm like, I need to go back and look at this in time to see how
Mm,
my answers would shift. But it was really
yes,
beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I specifically designed it for myself as well. Like you said, I love that when our best creations really come from what we needed the most as well. And then it's just sharing what worked for us, because we kind of know it's going to be impactful because it has been so impactful for us. So the way I did that journaling was exactly to return to once a year, maybe twice a year, and see how we grow, like a little check-in, because those answers will change the more you evolve, the more you grow, the more you heal. You may have a different perspective. Well, you will most likely, because you will want more for yourself. You will see yourself as a more empowered being. So your dreams will change. You will, finally start asking for what you deserve, what you're worthy of, in like, because when we're not healing yet, then we don't ask that much
That's
from the
right.
world, because we don't think we deserve, right? We think this is as much as we can get, and asking for anything more than that, it's selfish, or it's just not for us, or like whatever limiting beliefs we have around it. So I love that you're doing so many things, that like it's so great to hear it. I can see you're passionate about it. So like I love, it's very similar energy to what I have. I wonder if you are, do you know human design? Are you a manifesting generator, or
No, I'm a projector.
are you a projector?
I
Oh,
am.
interesting. Because
The
that was a
one
very
three.
manager energy, with the whole I'm gonna do this and that and that's gonna fit. Uh
I do burn out from time to time with the way that I do it, but
okay.
the way that I've set it up is I create systems in everything that I do. So, for example,
Mm.
part of my course, I just finished a coaching program where I've learned how to use subconscious mind techniques, which I think you've got something similar to
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
So I'm using that in my course to teach people about their intuition so that the limiting beliefs that they've
Mm.
been conditioned to have, we can remove before they move into a space where they continue to utilize their intuition. So I create basically like programs or how did my boss put it the one time? He's like, "You're the laziest person I've ever met." And I'm like, "No, I'm the most efficient person that you've ever met."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll see a system and I'm like, "Nope, this could work better in this, and this way."
Yeah.
And then I will recreate it for myself. So, like my course, for example,
Mm.
everything is a template. I went on Etsy, I created my sales page from a template and then just put in my colors and, switch things around to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
not about to reinvent the wheel on things that already exist that I could utilize to
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah.
So when I tell people I'm a projector, they're like, I would not have pegged you for that because of all the different things
Mm.
that you've
Yeah.
created, but it's because I have a system. If I didn't have the system,
You
I'd be
have a
on the
system
floor.
and you have the experience. Yeah, if you worked in a corporate world, I always laughed when I was a project manager that I'm the most efficient person in the office as well.
Mhm.
Everyone was always like, how can you do that many things? I'm like, I'm just efficient. I just see the things and I do them, and it just, but I think it's our predisposition as well. Your brain must be wired that way and
Oh
just
yeah.
sees those things. A lot of people have a problem with the structure and with that, whereas for us it seems it's freeing, because that if there's a system, if there's an automation, then you have more time to do what you love, to focus on the things that really matter, and to create your best creations, right? Because then it's just going to be on the autopilot, so to speak, and it's just going to be running itself. So tell me about intuition. So intuition seems to be a very big part of your work and your passion, and I think it's a very, it's like a trendy word kind of thing, but still people have different opinions of what it is, what it means. So what does it mean to you, and how would you say people can get better at listening to their intuition?
That is a great question. And that is something that I had to consider when I was making this course. So I can answer that real quick for you. Uh, I
Excellent.
I took a course on how to create a course, and the way she described it to kind of bring everything together was brain dump everything that you've done that brought you to the transition of where you are, and then cut out any of the shit that doesn't make sense that you wouldn't have needed had somebody presented it to you in a way that was super streamlined and efficient. And what
Mm.
came up for me was immediately I was like, okay, I did yoga. I took a manifestation babe course. I don't know if you've ever seen her, but
I've heard, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love, I loved her course when I was first, coming into this scene. So I did that. It was during the pandemic, so I also stopped drinking alcohol, which was a big one for me because I did like to party quite a bit. Nothing outlandish, but there was definitely more than what was needed.
We've all been there.
Oh
We've all
yeah.
been there.
So I was like, okay, everything seems to have like this similar theme of nervous system regulation. And having come from corporate and then being a real estate agent during the busiest time during the pandemic here in Canada was just absolutely nuts. Like I was selling 30 houses a year by myself, which is a ridiculous amount of houses to sell. And to be honest, I would never want to go back there because it was just too much. So I started to regulate my nervous system using yoga with Adrienne, which is this online.
Oh, I did it as well. Oh my
Yes, she's the best. It's like
I
you're in
know,
your
it was
living room
so
with your best
easy and
friend.
yeah.
Just, I freaking love her energy. And
Yes.
she would call me out right when I was doing something that I like, that I could have corrected or done a little bit better. She'd be like, "Oh, by the way, if you're doing this," and I'm like, "How is this bitch in my living room?" Like,
Yeah.
so nervous system regulation was number one for sure. If you are in a state of fight or flight repeatedly, or you have drained your adrenals and you are just absolutely gassed all the time because you're not getting enough sleep. And I know this is really cliche, but truly, this is what will help. Getting enough sleep, taking care of your body, moving at least 20 minutes a day. That's funny. The smoke just came across your screen as if to say,
Yeah, no.
"Hello, yes."
My incest is like,
Woo, hello, I'm here. And then just really tuning into yourself without anybody else's energy interfering with your own. So for me, it was like a very short, because I have like a very busy mind. So meditation is almost off the table for me. So either a guided meditation or just really like a box breathing, sort of sitting there type deal was really beneficial. But like nervous system regulation first. So when I did the yoga for the first, I think 2.5 years, I did it every single day. All of a sudden I started getting like hints, like signs from the universe, 1111, like the super normal signs that people get, white feathers, rainbows, songs on the radio in the perfect moment. And then it started to get a little bit more intense where it was like, I remembered that I had predicted my mom's death. I remembered that I had predicted like a number of other things. I would know to go down like certain roads without knowing that I shouldn't go down a different road that I had initially intended, like different little things like that. So I thought, okay, I should probably pay attention to this. And I had been seeing mediums for years because when my mom passed away, it was the only way that I could feel really connected to her. And so I started to kind of look in and dig into, okay, what does mediumship actually look like? And so I found a girl online, signed up for her course, did our first practice course as a group, and like read this girl to a T. And I freaked her out. She's like, "How long have you been doing this?" I'm like, "I don't know, 5 minutes. It's 5:55 here." And from there, I was like, okay, what did I do that allowed me to tune into her energy? Basically, it was taking a couple of deep breaths right beforehand. Asking permission is huge. And people really underestimate this in the spiritual community. Just like with Reiki energy, asking permission is absolutely enormous, because if that person is not giving you conscious consent, their subconscious is certainly not going to let you tune in. And there are people where they'll come to me for a reading and I can tell they don't want to be read. It's still possible, but it is not a clear reading the way that I would get from someone like you who asked for messages right at the beginning of the conversation and they came in like immediately. So that was key. What else did I do? Oh, I took Reiki level 1. And to be honest with you, I hated it at first. I was like, this is not for me. I felt really sluggish, which when you're aligning your chakras is normal as part of the kind of almost detoxing sort of phase that you go through. And then when I got my Reiki level 2, my gifts were like completely online and everything just came super smooth, super quick. And of course, by then I had more practice as well. So if other people who are listening are looking to tune in, I would highly recommend channeled writing. It's the simplest thing that you can do without any prior experience. Lots of deep breaths, and then just let your pen do the writing. Don't consciously think. And the minute that you start to get in your own way, or you feel that upset kind of up through your center core, or you start to feel anything that feels like chaos, that is your talking. That is your conscious mind talking. That is your nervous system to keep you in the spot that you're in because it's safe. But when things come into your mind and they don't make any sense, so for example, you're sitting there and you're thinking about golf and all of a sudden you think about your dad, call your dad, because that is the universe sending you a message of something that's going on. So for example, if you've ever picked up the phone to text a friend and you're like, "Oh shit, they already texted me." That's your intuition talking to you. If you've thought about a yellow car and then all of a sudden a yellow car comes around, that's your intuition talking to you. And the more that
Mm,
you notice it, the more you'll be able to tune into it more easily. So doing little tests, like if you wanted to, maybe get 3 different crystals and put them out on a piece of paper,
mm,
and then, switch them all around with your eyes closed if they're a similar shape, and then pick which one based on color in your mind's eye. Like imagine which one and then ask for spirit to guide you to the correct one. And if you don't get it right, who cares? It doesn't matter.
yeah, well, I think that's the thing. I think we kind of give up very quickly. We try once and it's not the result that we want, and then we just like, whoa, that doesn't work. I'm not. But it's like what I would like to add to this is that this is a practice as well. All of this is a skill that can be trained. And of course, you're not going to be great at it if you've never done it, if you've been super disconnected. My internet is going crazy. If you've been super disconnected your whole life or majority of your life, in the last few years, or even more, then don't expect that you're going to do one little test or even do a little course or one day of journaling and then all of a sudden you're going to be connected and reading properly and all that. So patience is one thing that I always recommend, and this is definitely something I had to be working on very religiously, because I'm very, oh, but I need to do it because, I'm this and that. So like, I know that I can do it faster.
Yep.
But the beauty comes with the with slowing down and actually allowing to see how it evolves and just be curious about, how is it going to happen for me, and also not comparing yourself to someone else, because yeah, you are so good at it, but you've been practicing it, maybe you have certain gifts that I don't have yet, or
Right.
maybe I don't know your full story. We never really know someone else's full story, so comparing our progress to someone else's is always um like it's never going to end well, right?
No,
Because
it's
you're always going to be
detrimental.
like, well, I could be doing better, but it's not about, of course you can, like that's the whole point, you're always going to be doing better, but it's the journey that matters, and your effort right now in this moment, and you showing up, especially when you think it's not working. That
Yes.
is the beauty of it, that you keep going when you think it's not working, when you think it doesn't make sense, when you don't know where it's leading you, but there's something in you that is telling you like, I should be like, this is literally me in the last few months. It's like, I don't know if I'm going the right way, but it's telling me to go there, so I'm just gonna go.
Yep.
And do you know what, I'm happy that I'm happy that I have the stability, and I'm in this position that I can just go and listen, but I also created to be in this position, so it
That's
didn't
it.
just land on my feet and be like, okay, Maggie, you can do. I have everything that I've been doing since my surgery has been kind of leading me, and I was kind of following those breadcrumbs. So one question I want to ask on top of this as well is, was there a like specific moment? Was it your mom's death? You said your mom passed away, or was it somewhere earlier in your life? Was there like a specific moment that made you tune into your intuition more and start listening, or did it come kind of gradually over the course of many different things?
It, it's kind of both. So I did have
Mm,
like a tower moment. My mom passed away when I was 28 at my buckendoe. So for anybody who's not Canadian or doesn't know what that means, a buckendoe is kind of like a celebratory. I think of it kind of like a fair meets an engagement party. So you've got like different things
okay.
that people can do where they're, trying to hit a nail into a piece of wood, and or there's raffle
Yeah,
tickets,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
raffle prizes, and everyone's drinking usually. So she had a massive heart attack at the end of the night, uh
Oh, wow.
in the parking lot. So she had not been feeling well in the bathroom, and I didn't realize at the time that that was a sign of a heart attack when somebody has diarrhea and vomiting.
Mm,
And so she went outside and she collapsed in the car when my dad was getting ready to take her home. So that was my tower moment for sure. She passed away in May. We got married in September and we got pregnant in October. So it was a
mm,
really busy time where I didn't really have the chance to properly grieve her. So
yeah.
that was kind of where I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, do I actually like who I am right now? Like, do I actually like
Mm,
this version of me who, to be perfectly honest, I was fucking shallow. Like,
mm,
really shallow. Like, I loved, fast cars and fancy things. And I've always been a kind person, but like, definitely a lot more shallow than what I am now. And it was
mm,
just this realization where I was looking around and I was questioning everything. Like, why am I in this job that I have to rush to? And everyone's drinking usually. So she had a massive heart attack at the end of the night, 2 days later. And I was like, and then rush home. And all they care about is numbers. And I'm not a numbers person. I like my people and I want my people to be
Yeah.
happy. And it was to the point where, they went through this reorganization and everybody had to literally write down when they'd go to the bathroom. And I'm like, this isn't me. Like, this does not
Mm.
feel good to treat people like cattle. Like,
To you, yeah, yeah.
it's not right. So that was part of it. I actually knew I had gifts as a child. Like, my grandfather passed away when he died. I was 5, and we went up in the elevator to my grandma's apartment, and he was in the elevator with us, and I could see him very clearly. Nobody else could. And I got out of the elevator and I turned back and I said, "Bye, Papa. I love you. I'm going to miss you." And everybody started crying and yelling at me and saying I was being disrespectful to my grandma and yada yada. But like, what
Mm.
they didn't realize is he was standing right there, and
Yeah,
he just stayed in
yeah.
the elevator, went back downstairs, kind of like to say give his piece, so to speak, and then leave.
Yeah.
The first time, my dad had a heart attack when I was 18, so he was 48 years old, and I was home by myself, and my grandma lived in our basement, which was my dad's wife, so this gentleman's wife, and he was in the living room. And I came down the stairs from upstairs, and he was standing in the living room beside our dining room table, and I was like, anybody else seeing this? There's nobody else home. And I thought, okay, I'm just going crazy. I'm clearly haven't slept because my dad is in the hospital. Like, I brushed it off.
Mm.
Then when my mom died, like, I predicted her death. I went to somebody that I worked with and I was like, someone really close to me is going to pass away. I don't know who it is. I hope it's not Dave because we're about to get married. And that was it. And then a week later, my mom passed away and he came to the funeral and he's like, I remember what you said.
Mm.
And then, of course, with mediumship, I don't actively predict other people's passing. Like, this is people who are close to me that I have had this happen with, like my grandma
Mm.
when I was younger, but not something that I would ever share with a client. And
Yeah.
at that point, I was like going to see mediums regularly to feel close to her. And then after a while, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can just do this. Like, why would I not just try and figure out if I can do this? So that's when I found the course, and it
Mm.
escalated really quickly. Like, my spiritual journey, I think, started in, we'll say, begin mid 2020, and then to
Mm.
now it's like I've done, restaurant mediumship quite a few times where I've got like 30 people and I'm doing huge groups, and I've done
Mm.
my own retreats where I've got, 20 women that come together for the day, and we do a number of different things like yoga, sound bowls. I've been trained in sound bowls as well. Like, it has escalated really quickly, but it's because I'm so
Yeah.
passionate about it. And then when I started to realize I was using it in real estate, like, I would walk into a house and I'd be like, this is not the house for you. And my clients
Mm.
would be like, how do you know? I'm like, I just know. Or one time my client sent me a picture of a house and I was like, this is your house. Well, let's go see it. And they bought it, and they got it like ridiculously lower than any other price. Or we were in multiple offers here all the time. I would be
Mm.
guessing what the house would sell for within $500, which things were going for like 100 grand over asking. So like, to get it within $500, I was actually scaring clients because they were like,
Yeah.
what are you
That's so
doing?
cool though.
I had this one client, if you want a story, like, this house was up on a hill, really creepy. I didn't like the vibe of it at all. I got anxiety the minute
Mm.
they told me they wanted to go see it. We go there, we go in the garage, this giant black cat jumps out in front of me, which is funny because I like black cats. We go in the
Mm.
house, the floors are spongy. It had this turret that you could go up into, but you had to crawl up this ladder. I hit my head twice. Their son hit his head. And then we went into this other room that it could kind of oversee a ravine. And I could feel, and this was before I was a medium, like trained medium, I could feel that a young girl had passed away down the ravine, and that the house was basically like haunted by multiple people. But at the time, I couldn't decipher kind of who it was. And we went into this room and they have knee walls. So if you're familiar with houses that are kind of like a story and a half,
Mhm.
you've got the straight wall and then the sort of
Yeah.
TP type wall that goes further up. We start hearing knocking inside the walls. And I open up the knee wall because it's like an attic space that you can put stuff in. There's nothing there at all. Like, it's squeaky clean, spray foam insulated, looks really, really nice. I hear knocking again. And I'm like, okay, this is your kids. But I was watching everyone. Nobody knocked. And we're there alone. And it's like, a rural property, kind of eerie, like dark outside. I check the other
Mm.
wall. There's nothing. The lights start to flicker. I'm like, okay. We walk downstairs back on the main floor. These floors are still spongy. I'm like, guys, this is bad news. Like, this is not a good scene for you. They all walk downstairs into the basement. I take 3 steps down. I'm gagging. Like, I'm physically feeling like I'm going to throw up, gagging. And there's no smell. There's no nothing. I hadn't eaten anything that was upsetting to me, nothing. I'm gagging. And I'm like, guys, this is not, you can't buy this house. And they're like, Brittany, how could you possibly know that? Like, you're acting really weird. Are you okay? I'm like, no, I want to leave. Like, I physically am getting sick. I want to leave. So we leave. They're in love with it, of course. And they messaged me the next day and they're like, we want to put in an offer. And I'm like, you'll have to find another real estate agent. And they're like, but this is like a $30,000 commission. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not taking it because I'm not writing that offer and I'm not putting you in that house. And they're like, how can you be so sure? I'm like, just trust me. 2 weeks later, it ends up going conditionally sold. And then about a month later, I see an agent that I work with who is filming this house going up the driveway. And I snapshotted it and I was like, interesting. So an agent bought it. So then I kept watching. And about 3 weeks later, she shared in her stories that the septic had backed up into the basement and it was a $45,000 bill. Had they bought that house, that would have been them. Then 2 years later, she ends up selling it and she's getting a divorce. And I'm like, I'm telling you, when I know, I
Bad
know.
juju.
Oh yeah. And my husband now, like, he just gets freaked out by the shit that I tell him because he's like, I don't know how you know that. Today I was having reflexology and we were talking about my friend's spouse and I said, oh, his mother's in spirit. And she's like, yeah. And I said something about a straw. She wants to bring up the straw. It's really like something that she focused on quite a lot. And she messaged me later in the day and she goes, yeah, she always used to drink her pop and turn the tab around and put her straw in the tab and drink her pop with the straw. And I'm like, okay. Like spirit will just show you really, really weird things. So you have like a number of different senses. And I could name them all off, but I forget some of them usually. So you've got like clairvoyance, which is seeing, claircognizance, which is knowing. Clairempathy is one that I didn't know was a thing. So this is actually feeling other people's emotions, which is cool. Clairtangency, if anybody has watched the Wednesday show where she touches something and all of a sudden she has all these like sounds and smells. That's a one that I didn't really know about either. And there's a couple of other ones also. So I have them all. So it can be very overwhelming at times when you're like tasting and smelling and it's overstimulating sometimes. So I do have to take like really regular like energetic cleansing of myself. And napping is good.
Well, I can imagine that's a lot. So it's a lot of stimulation, a lot of different things coming to you. So you have to be clear as well, probably to receive. So I've had that cleansing your energy. Any sort of work with energies is this like your own hygiene is very important to make sure you only have your own kind of energy. I'm curious to know about because when we move from corporate world to more of the spiritual tuning into our gifts, it's culturally or like socially still probably like frowned upon, or people would be looking at you weird, or like this we usually faced with a lot of a backlash, I would say, one way or the other, right? Because you're all of a sudden doing different things than what people know you as. So how did you handle those transitions? Was there anything that you were doing? Is there anything that was like the most challenging in accepting your gifts and putting them out in the world, which may be connected with friends and family, or something completely different, but more like a, do you know what I mean, with the socially kind of
definitely. So I think for me it was a slow transition because I moved from corporate into real estate. So I was already kind of cast out in the sense of I wasn't working a 9 to 5, so I wasn't available to be friends with people that I had been friends with in 9 to 5 because I was working evenings and weekends. So that kind of started the journey. When I was doing real estate, I was like using my intuition so much that I don't think it was as much of a stretch for me as it probably is for others, because I've always been the weird one. Like, doesn't matter what room I'm in, I'm always the weirdest person in the room. And I'm okay with that and have been. since I was little. Like I used to hug trees, and the kids in school were like, "Why the fuck are you hugging the tree?" And I'm like, "Because you guys
Yeah.
have really chaotic energy, and this tree feels good." um, so I mean, for me, that part wasn't such a steep transition. I think the hardest part was my family. So my dad
Yeah.
was a real estate agent for 40 years. So for him, me transitioning into only working with real estate clients that are super aligned, which of course means I'm not doing the nearly the level of business that I had been, mixed with talking to dead people. Um, it's been a stretch for him, but luckily he's had his own experiences that he's afraid to tune in, and I know that. So we've had
Mm,
lots of experiences and lots of like open discussion about it, and he's supportive in his own way, but that one was definitely my inner child was hurting when I was explaining to him
yeah.
what I was doing because I felt like I was disappointing my dad. I joined real estate to be on his team. You know, we were working together for a while, and I
Mm,
felt like I was letting him down. And my mom was a real estate agent too before she worked at the school board and passed away. So there was that element. And then also my spouse, he's very supportive, but there was this thing where he's got a lot of money wounds. So for him, when I
mm,
go from corporate and I had the pension and I had, you know, a decent pay and blah, 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 it was a stretch for him for me to go to real estate. But he did it and he saw how well it worked. So what I explained to him was, you've got to understand that if I'm able to do it there, there's absolutely no reason why I can't
yeah.
apply those same skills to what I'm doing here in the spirituality world. And so he's been more accepting now because he can see so clearly with the examples that I share regularly how my intuition is guiding me and how it's been beneficial. Like, you know, we
Mm,
manifested a cottage, I've manifested a rental property, and now we're manifesting selling it. Like literally the morning that I decided I wanted to be done with our tenant, she gave us notice that afternoon. And I said to him, like, do you see how quickly this can kind of move when your intuition is really in tune?
yeah.
So that portion has been good. On the friend end of things, because I stopped drinking alcohol, that has been my biggest challenge because I was known as the party girl. Like I was the one that was, you know, dancing and pretty wild. So to move
Mm,
from that into this space where I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm making other people uncomfortable because I'm
oof,
reflecting to
yes.
them,
Mm.
right? Like their own,
It's funny how we always need to explain ourselves why we don't want to drink.
right. Isn't that weird?
Because yeah, yeah, I know when well, yeah, I mean, I don't actually drink now. This year, I maybe had like 2 drinks, and
Yeah.
it's June, so like, but it's not like I completely say I'll never drink again. It's just it doesn't interest me
No.
anymore, in any way. But when I first stopped drinking, I used to drink a lot as well. So like for 15 years pretty much since I
Yeah.
was a teenager to like, mid-20s. And then I kind of stopped because of my fighting and because of Muay Thai, because you couldn't really have a hangover and train at the same time because it's just too much a
Yeah.
thing. And I remember, yeah, it was like shocking to people. Like it was so hard for them to accept, like, I think the first friend that I went to a pub and I was like, I'm just gonna have a non-alcoholic drink. She's like, oh my God, are you pregnant? Are you depressed?
Yep.
Like, what's happening? And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, can I just not have a drink? Like, is that
Can I just have
acceptable
some water?
in this?
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's always funny to me as well that even now, years later, when people shouldn't really connect me with that version of me that was, that's already like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
there's still like this social construct that, if you're not drinking, then there's something's up, but
And
I do feel that even your gifts are opening, like you have a clearer intuition probably as
oh
well
my goodness.
if you're not drinking, because it's just you. And then you also find the strength, I think, because most of us drink because we want to escape one thing or the other, or forget or numb. Even majority of us don't want to admit it, but I'm pretty sure that's like the universal truth. No one just gets drunk off their face for the fun of it. I mean, maybe when you're 15 and you don't know any better, but the more you do it, the more it's because it's a form of escape,
Right.
and you can just leave the world that bothers you or the thoughts that bother you or whatever. When you stop drinking, you then can sit with those emotions. You can, and you actually, the beauty of it is that you can realize that you are much stronger than you thought, and you actually don't need this
Absolutely.
alcohol. You can just handle the day and whatever, and many times it doesn't even take as long as we think
Not
that it
at
will, but because we constantly escape, we constantly numb, we constantly put ourselves in this loop, because it's like a loop that we find ourselves in, right? Then we think it's going to be so hard to just change it, and the friends and the weird reactions kind of like keep us in this belief as well. But once you decide, it's like with anything, right? The healing journey, whatever it is, once you decide that you just want better for yourself, something different, and I think that is intuition. I think usually it's the intuition that tells us, because even me, I always knew I want to do some martial arts. And
Yeah,
I didn't I didn't know why, but now I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, of course, because Muay Thai gave me so much of the things that I wouldn't otherwise ask for myself.
right.
I wouldn't deem worthy of even trying to get, and it was a long process. It was like over 10 years before I kind of reached certain level of something, but it was as much as I could handle at the time. So, and that was part of my intuition, listening to it all, like, and even the way I found it, it was kind of magical as well. But it's funny how you see it later,
Yeah,
but not necessarily at the time. But I think now you probably see, because that's what happens with me, like now, this, the hindsight, do you
yeah,
have this now? I believe you have it now as well, because I think that comes with practice and with being so in tune with yourself that you can actually, the hindsight can almost come instantly, like you know exactly why you're doing a certain thing, or because you don't need to wait years to be like, oh,
yes,
that's why this happened. You
yeah,
just like, this is why it's happening, and that is such a cool thing, right? Like it's just like, oh my god, like I know exactly why this person came into my life, or why I'm gonna have to say no to this or yes to that, or put myself out there when it doesn't make any sense. Like we chatted about it at the beginning, right,
yeah,
before we started recording, that I know, because I have those excitement and like I just go there, but then my mind is like, don't go there, like why would you go there? But I'm like, no, let's go. Like I
yeah,
think
exactly.
something
Like,
does need to go.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just, let's just follow this, let's just test it. So yeah, that's how I see intuition as well. So would you say this comes with practice, this comes with
absolutely.
believing?
It comes with blind trust, and it is the most
Yeah,
uncomfortable thing that people, quite frankly, refuse to do, is blindly
yeah.
trust. Like when I think about finances sometimes, and I think to myself,
Mm,
okay, I've got this real estate job where I can make money really easily and quite a lot of it. How am I ever going to create that again? And then,
yeah.
with this course, it was kind of like my test run to see if it was possible for me. And once I did it,
Mm,
I was like, this is so stupid. How could I ever possibly think that this wasn't possible for me after
yeah,
everything that we've been
yeah.
through, right? You've survived surgery after surgery, injury after injury, and you're still standing. And like, how
Mm,
could we possibly even think to ourselves that it's not possible? So, one thing that I like to do with intuition when I'm teaching about it is to poke holes in evidence. I use that in quotation
mm,
if people can't
yes.
see me, because you will come up with every excuse under the sun as to why your intuition is not in existence. If you're just starting to learn it and you're feeling insecure, or you're feeling not enoughness around your intuition, you will find every which way that it hasn't served you. But then
Mm-hmm.
when you start poking holes and looking for the evidence of where it has served you, which is part of my cards, that actually shows you evidence of what you've already done in the past to perpetuate more of it in the future. Because where focus goes, things grow, right? So if you
Yes,
focus on
yes.
where you've already used your intuition, okay, so I've already done it there. So how can I apply that same principle to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing? You've already created a successful coaching business. So whatever it is that you want to do next, you already have the belief in yourself that you're capable of doing it.
Mm,
So you can apply that same concept or that same belief system or that same confidence to the next thing. And then when you do come up with limiting beliefs, how can you poke holes in that evidence? I kind of think of it like you're on trial. I think of,
mm.
I don't know why, but I really love the show Dexter.
Yeah, I
you know,
used to, yeah, I loved
I
it as
just
well.
rewatched
I
it.
try
I'm
not
like,
to watch too much of murder and serial
yeah, yeah,
killers anymore, but yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I'm not gonna
me
lie. I
too.
watched all of it.
I'm like literally watching it for a second time. It's the only murder show that I'm like, and of course, true crime, because I can solve them using my gifts. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, and I think of it like that, right? Like you're a lawyer on trial and you're using evidence to show where you can use your intuition. And then your brain,
Mm,
when you're feeling unsafe in something, will show you all the reasons why it's not possible. So then again, it's your nervous system fucking with you. showing you all the ways that
Mm,
it's not possible. So then how can you use your conscious mind to poke holes in that? So if you are sitting there and you're thinking, okay, I'm not an intuitive person.
mm,
Okay, what proof do you have that you're not an intuitive person? XYZ.
mm,
Okay. Now, what is the opposite of that that has also happened for you? How can you flip the
yeah.
script? How can you reframe it so that you can see the ways that it has actually worked for you? Because when we start poking holes in the evidence or in the stories that we create in our mind by simply reframing or even doing, like pros cons list type style, you will be amazed at what you find in there when you are looking for
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Just take a
Yes.
peek, look at the ways that it's already serving you. For example, uh, when I do my, what do I call it now? Glimmers of gratitude. Part of it, the
Mm,
portion of the course is a reflective piece. And it's like, name 5 ways that your intuition is already working for you. So that they're
mm,
not starting the course feeling deflated or defeated, that they're already seeing that there are ways in which this is working for them so that it's
mm.
easier to continue to gain that momentum. It's kind of like pushing a snowball
Yes.
down a hill. Now it's like,
And that really comes down to our brains, they have this negativity bias. So it automatically will always focus on the things that we do not have or the things that do not go wrong because of the survival mechanisms in us that were very important back in the day, right?
yep,
So to train ourselves, that's why gratitude, journaling, reflection, reminding yourself, celebrating the small wins, not just the big ones, but the small ones. All of this is part of the way I see it, is part of retraining your brain or training even your brain to also see the good stuff, because by default it sees the bad stuff. And there's nothing unique to you or me. Everyone has it. It's just how it works, right? So once you not add the story to it, that it means something, because I used to add the story, everything was very personal in my head, right? Like I'm this or I'm that because I have this fault, because I didn't do better, because blah blah blah. And I didn't see it as a whole of everyone has it, but I'm just so uniquely damaged or whatever that it just happens to me, right? Which is absolutely not true. And once you can realize this, then I love to say that it's just training, because
yep,
training takes away the emotion, takes away the need to add the story that needs to mean anything about you. It's the same way as you train your body to have the muscles, to have a six pack, to do whatever. The same way you train yourself um to see to be grateful for things that you have, to focus on what you want, to whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's a healing journey, transformation journey, or like any other normal goal, like eating better. It kind of applies to everything, right?
absolutely.
So yeah, I like the poking things. And today I actually saw a story as well on Instagram, and someone was talking about energetics and talking about moving forward energy, she called it. And it was exactly so, whenever you think about something and you like of your goal, or like you, for example, creating this course, and you have those thoughts like, oh, it's not going to work because blah blah blah, then you're not looking forward, because you are drawing from your past, you are drawing from this negativity. So anytime something is constricting, it's probably because you're not looking forward. But if you're doing things like most of us, a lot of us are trying to build things we've never built before, become the person we've never been before, then we need to make decisions we never done before and think the way we never done before. So we can't really be drawing from the past. We got to be looking forward and excite ourselves. And then that's how we're going to bring this more forward as well. So I think it kind of aligns well with the poking holes, because you can just, but even if you cannot find that evidence yet, then
Yep,
just start creating it,
exactly.
because it's
That's the
something
next
new,
thing.
right? So just
Yeah,
start creating it. If you don't have the evidence, then build it, then prove it to yourself that maybe you can. And maybe it's going to take you a week, maybe it's going to take you a year. It doesn't matter, because again, the journey matters, and the way that you show up for yourself, and the way that you keep going. And
yeah,
that is very, very, very highly based in trust,
yes,
in whatever it is, whether it is in yourself, higher power, like call it as you please. But it is the most important and the most underrated, and I think the most difficult thing for many of us, to
absolutely.
just keep going when it's not that easy, when we have no evidence that it's going to work out, when we don't have the support of the family and friends that we would like to, we don't have the numbers that we're hoping for, we don't have the clients that we want to have, like
Right.
those uncertain times. are the times that are the hardest, but those are exactly where you build that resilience, when you build that stamina, or whatever you need to be later when it comes, the success that you want. When it comes, you need to be a certain person, right? So
Well, and you've got
if
to
it
have
just,
the tenacity and the like
yeah,
character to get there. And something
yeah,
that you said, two things, because I wanted to share and make sure that I
mm,
before I forget. When we're
yeah,
talking about, you know, not having the evidence, one of the very first readings that I ever did, just to share with other people, because I literally am a professional medium who gets paid very well to share messages with people. I had a friend who came and I shared with her probably like 2 hours worth of information. And I just trusted
mm,
everything that came through. None of it made any sense to me at all. It was
mm,
just like,
mm,
you're going to this place. This is what you're going to see when you're there. This is happening here.
mm,
This is happening there. This is what's happening with your spouse. She told me none of it resonated at all.
mm, mm,
And she was like palpably disappointed by the fact that none of it resonated.
mm,
And I said, I want you to just take it all with a grain of salt for right now and just remember what I said. She
yeah,
came back a year later and absolutely everything that I had told her came true. So imagine if I would have that entire year before it all came to fruition, not done another reading
yes, because
and helped all
someone,
these
yeah,
people with their grief because I stopped because one person didn't resonate. I can tell you right now, there have
mm,
been many people who haven't resonated with my mediumship readings and then come back afterwards. And again, if I hadn't
mm,
trusted myself in the moment, that wouldn't have taken place. And the best piece of advice that I ever heard was at the beginning of my real estate career. A friend of mine said to me, and it's very much in line with what you're saying about training and making sure that you continue on the path, even though it gets difficult. She said to
mm,
me, Brittany, never compare your day one to somebody else's
yes,
10 years.
yeah,
It's not even
yeah,
remotely close. Your day one to their 10 years, their 5 years, their 2 years. For one, you are starting
yeah,
jumping off from a completely different space, right? Your life
yeah,
is vastly different from mine. My life is vastly different from the person next to me. Like for us to compare is absolutely highway robbery to ourselves. And I think
yeah,
where Instagram has become so toxic in some ways is that it forces comparison because it's right in your face.
yeah,
And so when you're sitting there scrolling and you're starting to feel that overwhelm, the best piece of advice I can give anybody is instead of consuming, try creating.
yes,
It's
create more than consume, yeah,
yes, it's a completely different vibe and it just feels it's so
yeah.
better. Or even just don't look at it at all.
I mean, I would also add, to me, again, this is a training field.
Yes.
So yes, if there's a certain type of people that you follow and they just like trigger you the whole time and put some wounding, even more than unfollow or hide and they just don't watch it. But if it's something that is just like, because some of the triggers are our teachers and our
Yes.
guides as well. So if someone's success is triggering something in me, then it's probably is because I want that success as well,
Yes.
and I'm maybe not putting myself out there as much as I could have been, and that's why that person is triggering me, because I see in them what I don't do myself yet, but I would want to, right? So you can use that, instead of like comparing, always kind of put this inward and be
Yeah.
like, okay, why am I triggered, or why is this bothering me? And if it's for your growth, then you can still train yourself and be like, okay. Or even, I journal a lot because I am very reflective. So if something bothers me, or if something, and it happens, because as you said, like, internet can be a toxic place, but it also doesn't have to. It's up to you what you make of it, right?
Yeah.
So I always try to figure out, why is it that I feel a certain way, and then I can make the decision whether to unfollow that person, or do the thing that they're doing that I want to be doing, but I'm not. So that's why I'm like, oh, they're doing this again, because that's going to be the default, because my soul wants to be doing it, and maybe it's screaming to me, it's like, Maggie, you could be doing this as well. Look at her, or look at him. They're doing it, and you're here sitting and overthinking and not taking action, because you, whatever, the worst case scenarios in your head. But we gain the confidence. What I wanted to add from the what you said already is that we actually gain that confidence by doing.
Right.
So exactly, because you kept going and you kept listening, and even though this person didn't resonate, that person didn't resonate, you still kept going. And maybe there was a part of you that you were like, maybe I'm not doing it
Oh
right.
yeah.
But you still kept going. Exactly. So
Yeah,
it's
oh
not like you
yeah.
were exempt from, no, I'm just like so confident in me. No, you gathered that confidence because you kept going, even when the evidence was kind of like, because it's kind of like a test, right? As well. Like, are you really
Absolutely.
serious? Are you really serious about this path? Are you going to keep going when you don't have the clients, when you don't have the likes, when you don't have the interest, or you're just here for the validation?
Yeah, no.
So this is how you know, figure out as well whether this is something that you're doing because you're passionate about it and because it's your life's purpose, or maybe you're just doing it because it's the latest trend and it gives you the validation, which is not the healthiest way to
Right.
approach things, right? Because you kind of want to learn how to give that validation to yourself. And
You hit the
yeah.
nail on the head. So it's interesting because something that you said was really just magnificent. So recently there have been there's this one spiritual person that I follow who I think she's lovely. She's like a witch. I can't remember what her handle is. And she's been getting
Mm,
tons and tons and tons of traction on she has these like rage sort of parties in the forest. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were in Costa Rica, I had a download that I needed to do rage parties.
I'm
And I
pretty sure you might be talking about Mia Magic. Is this
yes,
the
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So when we were in Costa Rica, I had the download that I needed
yeah,
to do basically what she's doing. I didn't do anything with it. And then I saw her
yeah,
come out with it and I was like, ah, like I know people need it. And I was so disappointed in myself for not taking the
yeah,
action on the download. And then it was like, but there's something to learn here. And just like you said, you
yeah.
know, this element of, okay, that's triggering to me, but it's not triggering because of anything she's doing. It's like good for you because this is fantastic. This is what the world needs.
Hmm.
But inside I was like, damn it, Brittany, like you could have taken
You could be, yeah,
action. Yeah.
yeah,
But it's also interesting when you also don't follow the little hits, like what we were talking about
yeah.
earlier before we came on. It will show up in other ways. And the universe is so cool. Like they'll give the same, or it will give multiple people the same message, and it will be the first one that takes action that benefits from it, right?
Mm, mm. Yeah, but if we also believe in this abandoned universe, which I'm obviously still working on because I definitely come from a very scarcity mindset. So I laugh sometimes how, you know, my mind's just as a default, everything is limited and all that. But if I forget about that and look into the abundance, then, you know, because you're gonna create, even if you do create your rage retreats in the forest, you're going to do it completely different than Mia is
Absolutely.
doing it, because you're a different facilitator, you have a different personality, you bring different things to the table, and that doesn't mean it's better or worse. It means some people will be more attracted to you, some people will be more attracted to her. It's not I love that I am more looking at the world in terms of collaboration and what can learn from the people that are on a similar path, what I can then use in my own business or in my own personal journey, you know, instead of being like, oh, well, they did this already, so I can't do it because this idea is now used. Like all the ideas are recycled the whole time, you
That's
know?
it. That's immediately where my mind went at the beginning. And then I was like, but just like what you said, the world is so abundant. I'm in a different, like I'm in Canada. So that, you know what, like
Yeah.
again, looking for the evidence that it's still possible for me, despite the fact that it's already been done. And I had to sit with it for a little bit because I was,
Mm,
you know, annoyed with myself for the moment. But then I'm like, that doesn't mean that it's not still possible for you. It just means that it's, you know, it's already out there. That's it. It doesn't
yeah.
mean
Yeah.
anything about you. And that's the other thing about intuition is it does, if whether or not you're accurate does not make you a better person or a worse person. And that's something that I
Mm,
really had a hard time with at the beginning because I would get down on myself when people were saying they weren't resonating with what I was sharing with
yeah.
them. And it was like, I made it mean something about me, but it doesn't. It's
Mm,
neutral. Spirit doesn't give a fuck if I'm a doctor. Spirit doesn't care if I'm, you know, in a ditch. They don't care. They just want to share
mm,
messages, and it's my job to do that. And I'll do it in the way that I
yeah.
best know how. And I can tell you right now, the way that I shared messages 2 years ago to now is vastly different because I've learned how
Yeah.
to interpret my own gifts
Yeah, of course.
over
Yeah,
time. And there's no
of
manual
course.
on this. Like even my course, I'd love to tell you that you will know absolutely everything about intuition the minute you walk away from it, but that would be a lie because it is so subjective.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's 100% true. It's and it's your beginnings as well. Like this is your first course, is it?
Yeah.
In this format, exactly. So like you can then build upon it, and it can be better and better, or it can just stay like that, and you can move on to another thing. Like you don't know, and you can't really predict it, but stopping yourself from even putting it out there because of the fear that it's not going to be so that's just like perfectionism, right? Because you're
Yes.
just not going to put it out there. But nothing ever is really perfect, and what matters is that it's going to help someone go take another step and just
Yeah.
go a little further in their journey. That's really all it matters, because it's an ongoing journey, right? So it's not like we're gonna reach the destination and voila, that's it. No,
Yeah.
no more, no more
There's
work or nothing.
there's no Siri in the background. You have reached your destination.
Yeah.
That's called death. And then you're all knowing because you can see
Yeah,
it and
yeah.
feel everything
But
all at
actually
once.
you might return
Yeah,
anyway, just with the
exactly.
amnesia.
There's no destination whatsoever. It's just an ongoing sort of
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Um, well, that has been a lovely conversation. I think we've touched upon a lot of things. Obviously, this is like topics that we could talk for hours. But I think we can start wrapping this up. But before I let you go, I wanted to ask as well, what's your big vision at the
Oh,
moment? How does, yes, if you want to
oh,
share.
well, shit, Maggie.
You
Okay.
know me, I'm the visionary. I'm all about visions.
You
So this
are
is the
about
question
vision.
that I.
Okay. So I have been thinking about this a great deal. And so just for some context, I have a 8 and 9 year old, and my why are my children and my husband and my family. So like we live on an acre. We have a bunch of animals recently that we have adopted. Um, we've got 2 kittens and a bunch of chickens coming, and a turkey and a dog, and like a little tiny homestead, very small. I spent the majority of my life being overstimulated by,
Mm,
going to the next thing, trying to make the money, making lots of money, and then still finding myself really dissatisfied. And
mm,
so I've gone from being a fuck yes for everyone else and a fuck no for myself to now I am a fuck yes for everything. And if it's not a fuck yes, I'm not doing it. So
mm,
the big vision for me, like with my business, I would say is to create a business that is sustainable, where I'm able to have the largest possible impact on people. And this will be in the form of manifestation, intuition, because I truly believe that if you understand manifestation in the way that it works and you are able to utilize your intuition, you are literally unstoppable. Like I'm hearing Sia
mm.
in my mind, because if you can couple the two together, anything is possible for you. So, coming up with a way to create experiences for people in those realms. So right now I do retreats, which are like not international retreats. That's on the bucket list at some point, but for now I'm kind of
Mm.
working toward continuing to create them here, and then when I feel comfortable, I will actually, when I'm ready to get
Expand. Yeah.
uncomfortable, then I will expand. I'm not quite
Yeah.
there yet. Continuing to do my one-on-one clients, I am looking to create an intuitive coaching business, where I work one-on-one with people who are looking for mentorship with their intuition, but also using the subconscious mind, because I'm very logical, but then also very spiritual. So I think I attract a different.
Same.
Yes,
Mm.
exactly. Like where it
Yeah, we
makes
think
more
very,
sense.
very alike in that
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the logic piece of it and the science piece of it. So that is definitely
Mm.
very important to me in how I continue with this coaching business. And then I keep getting these nudges to like help teach people how to run a business, because when I have all of these different systems in place, it would be very easy for me to sit with somebody who's looking to start a business
Mm.
and really help them bring that to life. I don't know what that looks like yet, but continuing
Yeah.
courses and providing support in a Q&A style rather than constant a need for me. Like I want to empower other people to be self starters rather than needing me all of the time.
Yeah.
Because with mediumship,
Mm.
sometimes people become a little codependent on the messages that they receive. So I want to teach them how to get their own messages, where they like basically I make myself
Yeah.
obsolete because they can trust in their own.
Yeah, but that's the way I see this whole coaching and guiding others as well. You want to instill that power and confidence in others so they can go their own way,
Right.
and then they can make the decision to still have mentors. Like, it's always good to have a mentor and have someone that can guide you and advise you, but it's not necessary.
Right.
It's an extra, you know,
Oh, yeah.
support that you choose to have, not you. So it comes from your willingness to evolve and get maybe somewhere faster, rather than from a place of, I can't do this by myself, I don't have enough, you know, courage or enough or whatever. So that would still be coming from a place of lack. So that's why I love coaching and people that kind of, you know, like, always first thing they do is like, you have everything that you need.
Yeah.
I'm just here going to show you where it is, because maybe you're not seeing it just yet.
Yes.
And the paradox or the irony is, because people think, oh, if I tell you that you have everything, then you're not going to ever hire me, then you're not never gonna. But it's actually not this way, right? Because you then know the guidance is just a fun thing to have.
Right.
It's just more fun to have this journey with someone by your side, and
Yeah.
someone giving you the ideas or brainstorming or whatever. You see the value of having that companionship, rather than just doing everything by yourself, which most of us were used to be doing, right? Like,
Yes.
I need to just do it to prove my worth. I need to do it by myself, or otherwise, you know, I'm not good enough or something. So one other question before I ask you where my audience can see you is, you might love it, you might hate it, but what is your superpower?
Oh.
I mean, probably apart from speaking to dead people.
That was like definitely where I was going.
Because we know that one already,
Um,
so try to find a different one.
okay. I will say my energy. I very frequently, and this is not to be conceited, please understand that I am a humble person. This is just what people tell
Mm,
me frequently. They love my energy that I'm able to bring to a situation where they're feeling really down, or like people come
mm,
to me for advice all of the time. And I know that's being a projector with human design. It's just naturally people
yeah.
will tell me their whole life story. It's been my whole life. But they are frequently telling me that they love my energy and that they love how I'm able to, like, very similar to you, Maggie, shift their perspective by just wording things differently or asking them questions that they'd never considered.
Mm, mm.
So I would say
That's
my
awesome.
interrogation skills are my superpower.
Yeah. The poking holes and all that.
The poking of the
That's
hole.
amazing. That's amazing. So tell me, where can my audience find you? What's the best way to contact you? I'll link all the important stuff in the description of this video as well. But if you can just let us know what's the
Okay.
best way to be in touch.
The best way is to just sit and take a couple deep breaths. Just kidding. ESP doesn't really quite work that way. Okay. I'm not going to like be able to answer your emails through my mind.
I will send you my thoughts and you will find me.
Yeah. It does happen though. Weird stuff has happened like that, but I'm not going to assume that that's the best possible way. You can find
Yeah.
me on Instagram. It's at sprinkle.that.sparkle, or just look up sprinkle.sparkle, or Brittany Schmidt, Brittany, Brittany, Schmidt. Or you can look at my website. So it's www.sprinkle.sparkle.ca. And it's a very basic website because I don't really need a ton of bells and whistles
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But you can find me on there if you so choose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today. It was a pleasure to discuss all things that we did today, and to see you again. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love that you have a channel, and I'm loving continuing to witness your growth.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.